On today's show, we talk to certified dementia practitioner Shari and hear original poetry from Elizabeth Hanson and Alan Holwarth.
And if you're looking to learn or just have some fun, we'll also be talking about classes, programs, and upcoming things to do in Plymouth, Pembroke, Kingston, and Duxbury.
We're glad you're here. Let's get started. Before daguerreotype, the photographic process that came to prominence in the 1840s because it captured the perfect likeness, folk art portraiture was the form of image capture prevalent amongst middle-class, early antebellum era New Englanders. Learn more about this historical art form on Wednesday, March 19th, when the Duxbury Rural and Historical Society hosts Historic New England Cape Ann site manager Kristen Weiss for a talk about folk art portraits. Kristen has worked at the Peabody Essex Museum in Salem and has over 25 years of working with museum collections and historical houses. After the lecture, you'll be able to see and appreciate folk art from the DRHS collection. This is the first talk in the 2025 Bradford Lecture Series and starts at 5:30 p.m. Visit the Society's website to get your tickets. The King Caesar House is at 120 King Caesar Road.
For people with dementia and their loved ones, it is not an easy road. It is a future that is uncertain for many reasons, but there are people and organizations that can help lessen those uncertainties and shine some light through the darkness. I sat with certified dementia practitioner and co-founder of Ember Holistic Care, Shari, to learn more about the sensitive work she does with dementia patients and the people who love them. All right, I'm with Shari. Welcome. So happy to have you on Open here.
I'm excited to be here.
So let's dig in. How did you get into this field?
So my background is actually memory care. So I've worked in memory care assisted livings for, how old am I? Like going on 15 years now. And I loved it. I started in activities. So I started with making sure that they're staying engaged, switched over to sales. And kind of within those two roles, I started to realize alongside Katie, who owns it with me, she's an LPN, that there was just a need for more support for the caregiver on top of making sure that the person with dementia is getting care, because we were just seeing time and time again that caregiver just not really getting the support when somebody was diagnosed with dementia. So from being in the business and seeing that need, we were like, you know what, there's something here. We need to do something about this. So it's kind of where it started. But my background has just been within the field, being with the people with dementia.
I love it. So people have a general idea of what dementia is, but can you go into a little bit more detail just for some of us who don't know the ins and outs of it, of what it does to the mind and the body?
Absolutely. And I do want to say the best way I've ever heard it described dementia, because people get confused, dementia itself is not actually a diagnosis. A lot of people are diagnosed with dementia, but there should be another diagnosis to go with that. So dementia, the way I heard it described, which I love, is it's like a fever. So if you go to the doctors and you have a fever, they're not going to send you on your way and being diagnosed with a fever. They're going to say there's something causing that fever, like flu or COVID. So dementia is the fever, it's the symptom. And there's like hundreds of different types of things that lead up to that, like Alzheimer's, vascular dementia. But it varies from person to person. Everyone's journey is very different with it. But it can be from the memory loss, which is what the biggest thing that everyone knows is that memory loss piece, to changes in the way you speak. Some people forget how to speak. Some people have what we call word salad, where they're speaking, but it just doesn't really make sense. Almost kind of sounds like a toddler that's trying to start talking, where it's just like, what are you saying? I can't understand. For some people's personality changes, that's where it's really hard for families, because their loved one is really changing that personality. That's a hard one. Problem solving is challenging. They could see that it's sunny out and not realize that it's actually cold out, so they may think they need to dress for the summertime. So it changes a lot of things like that. And then as you progress more, that's where you start to see people forget how to walk, they can forget how to eat, forget how to communicate. So if they have a need, they can't communicate that with you. So it's a lot of changes that can happen, and depending on the type of dementia and the person in particular, that journey can look a little different for everybody.
Can you tell me a little bit more about Ember Holistic Care? Yeah. What kind of services do you provide?
Yes. So our overarching goal is to make sure that the person with dementia is getting as much support as possible. And in doing that, we want to make sure that the caregiver is getting support. So we assist the person with dementia, but we put just as much effort into the caregiver. So we can do anything from give us a call when you need us, whether it's you need to move to a community or you need to call the doctor's office and talk to them about what's going on and you don't quite know where to go, we can assist with that. We have different packages, which allows us to go into wherever their loved one calls home. So we can assist with visiting in person with the loved one. We can assist with the caregiver, whatever support they need if they're trying to have a life again because they've just had that caregiver title and they don't know how to be the daughter anymore. They don't know how to go out and socialize anymore because they've just been caring for that person. So we'll assist with stuff like that too. So we'll create a care plan for both of them with the goal of making sure that caregivers no longer having caregiver burnout, and then the person with dementia is getting that care. And then we also have presentations. So we are in a few communities presenting on dementia just to make sure that the professional caregivers also have that support so that they can provide the best care and the best approach to that person with dementia too. So kind of a variety of things. And then our biggest thing that we really try and use is our holistic approach. So with the knowledge that most people as they progress do need some type of medication to assist, we try to first see what can we change as caregivers from the holistic side of things, whether it's through meditation, Reiki, education on just approach in general, trying to how can we change our approach to that person so that we can figure out what the trigger is for whatever behavior they're happening. So we assist with that too, and all those services also are offered to our caregivers too.
I like that you dive into Eastern medicine as well. That's really interesting because you don't see those approaches being utilized in dementia care very often.
We have seen so many benefits with it. People that have your quote-unquote dementia-related behaviors like agitation, anxiety, it's common to just want to get a prescription for them, but we're like, no, what's the trigger? Is it too loud in here? Is it the way that I approach this person? Is it a specific person? Are they hot, cold, thirsty, and they can't tell us? So we try to figure out all of that while also incorporating with family approval, meditation, Reiki, aromatherapy. So we try to incorporate that first. And if none of that's working, then okay, maybe it's a chemical change in the brain, and that's where we truly need to look into medication.
Right. So you had mentioned that you offer services for professional caregivers and organizations, businesses. So why is it important for professional caregivers in senior living communities to get additional training from like an outside source rather than internal?
Yeah. So from being in the buildings, I have seen firsthand that the caregivers and all frontline staff, truthfully, they're listening to that management team all day long. So sometimes it's nice to have a different person coming in. And I think just hearing it from somebody else, seeing that the community, the company, whoever is the one that brought us in, is seeing like, okay, they're putting effort in to get us additional training, they'll usually listen a little bit better. And we try to update our training as much as possible. Not all communities do that from what we've experienced. So we just want to make sure that we have top notch. It's all interactive training too, so we're getting them involved so they're not just sitting there listening to us talk. And we just try to make it as interactive as possible so that they can take as much away from it as possible.
Very important to make that interactive component. Like I can't learn unless.
No.
You and Katie seem to put a lot of emphasis on caring for the caregiver. Why do you think that's so important?
Because burnout is so high.
Truth.
Unfortunately, oftentimes when we have the caregiver finally call us, they've already they're like right there at the cusp of that burnout or they have way surpassed it. So our goal is to try and avoid it by giving them just as much TLC as the person with dementia. So whatever that is, whether it's our goal is to get you away for a weekend with your husband, whether it's to get you back to playing tennis, whatever it is that you like to do for fun, our goal is to try and get them to feel comfortable with stepping away as the caregiver and being able to remove that hat as much as possible.
What advice do you have for people who have loved ones with dementia? It's such a tough journey and there's so many unknowns.
Yes.
How do you help them with that path?
Yeah, like with the progression in general, you
Yes.
mean? So the biggest thing is just accepting where they're at. And it is a grieving process similar to when you lose somebody. There's steps of grieving because you are slowly losing the person in front of you, but they're still here. So it's grieving, but in a different way. So it's the biggest piece of advice is enjoy every beautiful moment because there's going to be days we have beautiful moments with them and there's going to be days we have very challenging moments with them. And it's so easy to focus on what they're losing and not focus on what they still can do. So it's common that the caregiver wants to just jump in and do everything for them, but trying to hold on to as much independence as possible is so important. So if today she can pull her pants up by herself and tomorrow she can't, that's fine. Let's celebrate that win that yesterday she was able to and today will help her where she needs. So just always living in their world and just being where they're at in that moment, knowing that every moment's going to be so different. And then the biggest thing too is just build your team of support, whether it's friends, whether it's family, whether it's professionals like us, whoever that may be. Build that team of support because there's going to be moments where you're going to need to step away and you want to have someone that you can reach out to, but people that are also checking in on you too.
Got to have that village.
Yes. It's so important. And nobody does that, unfortunately, because it's hard to ask for help and it's hard to accept help.
Right, exactly. So what are some misconceptions that people might have about dementia?
That they still can't make decisions on their own, I'd say is my biggest one. So it's common that when someone is diagnosed with dementia, again, we just assume that they can't do things anymore. They can't cook anymore. They can't get themselves dressed anymore. They can't drive anymore. While all those things are eventually going to happen, everyone's so different with their journey, so you kind of have to just assess and see where they're at. So again, just because mom has dementia doesn't mean she can't still help you in the kitchen. It might look a little different. Maybe you're just having her cut up the vegetables versus all the other steps, or maybe you're having her wash the vegetables, or maybe she's folding the napkins for you for the table. Still making sure that you're allowing them to do things, but just switching it up for them as they progress in a way they can still be successful.
You must get really attached to people, especially, their families and going through, because it's such an emotional journey. So what has that experience been like for you?
It's challenging in the sense of you build relationships with them, but at the same time, if it's a beautiful relationship, then I have so many families that I still keep in touch with from when I was in communities to current clients right now. Katie and I actually have one client. It's been our longest standing client that we're assisting. It's their mother that we're taking care of. It's the daughter and her son-in-law. And we always joke, like, when the day comes that you no longer need us, like, we're going to go out and have some drinks together. So it's hard, but it's rewarding. And it's nice when you can build those relationships with the families, because then it just makes it easier. They're more comfortable with you and vice versa. And it just makes it so much easier because it feels like you're caring for someone who has been in your life for so long, even if they've only been a client or a patient or whatever you call them for a month.
Right. Is this your passion? Do you feel like this is your calling?
100%. The first time I switched my career entirely for it. I went to school for business and I was going to own my own hair salon one day. That was the original goal. And then my great uncle was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in the building actually he lived in. I ended up working in at one point, which was really cool. It was after he had passed. But I just knew the basic that everyone knows of the memory loss, and then getting to kind of experience his progression. I was like, this is amazing. It's sad, but it's also amazing. There's more here to this. So I completely switched everything. Thankfully, I was only a sophomore, so it wasn't too long into my venture, but it's definitely my passion. I absolutely love when I'm in the buildings. I love when I get to actually see the person with dementia. I adore every bit of it.
And you seem to. And honestly, you're doing such an incredible work for such a sensitive and such a difficult time in a lot of people's lives.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Of course. I was going to say, especially since COVID, we've seen more cases. And then baby boomers, unfortunately. We've seen a lot more of the younger population with the diagnosis now, too.
Yeah. But you're living it,
Yeah.
You're in the trenches. That's
Yes.
amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Join the Plymouth Phil at Memorial Hall for a night of gloriously bold, heroic, hopeful, and happy orchestral pomp. The captivating concert of all-American compositions will include Bernstein's immortal overture to Candide, Aaron Copland's extraordinary Symphony No. 3, and Joan Towers' Made in America, a Grammy Award-winning composition which the Phil was the first orchestra in New England to perform. And here is more music for your ears. All ticket holders are invited to attend a free pre-concert talk with conductor Stephen Kuridianis at 6:30 p.m. in Memorial Hall. The date is March 29th, and the concert starts at 7:30. Get your tickets online at plymouthville.org.
What is the new Senior Services Director at the Pembroke Council on Aging's vision for the future? Find out over a delicious cup of joe at the meet and greet event on Thursday, March 27th. This is a great opportunity to welcome Diane Pico to her new position. Get to know her and share your thoughts about the future of the Senior Center. The event starts at 10 a.m. and is open and free to all.
Derived from the Greek word ekphrasis, meaning description or interpretation, ekphrastic poetry celebrates, describes, and responds to a work of art. Next up, we head to the Plymouth Center for the Arts, where poet Elizabeth Hanson reads her original ekphrastic poem.
What a wonderful turnout. This is amazing. So I chose this absolutely beautiful photograph of a harvest moon. The title is called Pure Gold, and it's by Lydia Kaneff. Is she somewhere in the audience? Hello. So the only other perhaps reference you might need to know is Artemis was the huntress, and she was pure of heart and pure of deed. And she was the Greek goddess for the moon, I believe. Anyway, Harvest your disbelief, no bitter taste, no rules. You may worship her, sing to her, croon. She is your lady. You may hunt as Aramis did under her guise. Thread your arrow now. Gentle, proud lady, aim. Our darkness has its own rewards. Pure augury illuminates your upturned face. Defined desire yields no base metal. Pursue, hunt, power, refined, polished, burnished, resplendent, so pure, worship her. One night's madness, two, gathering yarrow and thyme, planting hope deep besides a white pine. Hold fast, releasing such delicious golden profusion upon our waiting earth. Thank you.
When the sun begins to break through the gray of winter and the wind is a warmer, gentler kiss on your cheek, meeting a new person to call a friend can add an additional spring into your step. The Plymouth Center for Active Living is hosting a 2-hour spring fling on Tuesday, March 25th. Guests will be seated at a table of 4 people to introduce themselves, chat and share interests while enjoying coffee and light refreshments. Whether you just moved here or want to expand your social circle, this is an opportunity designed for single women and men to foster new friendships and social connections. The fling starts at 4:30 and is free. Visit My Active Center to register.
To support the 2026 operating budget and subsequent 5-year financial forecast, the town of Duxbury is pursuing a $5.8 million budget override. Voters will decide at town election on Saturday, March 22nd. If you're a Duxbury resident who has questions you would like answered before heading to the ballot box, join Finance Committee Chairperson Betsy Sullivan for Duxbury Talks at the Senior Center on Monday, March 17th at 2 p.m. This informal, in-person conversation and Q&A session will explore the override's potential impact on taxes, provide information on what we're facing and how we got here, as well as answer any additional questions brought up by attendees about this important ballot question.
The impeccable talents of the Kingston Council on Aging's own Chef Warner from Cafe Evergreen will be on display when he demonstrates how to craft a mouth-watering dish of lemon chicken orzo and peas on Friday, March 21st at 11:30 a.m. If watching a chef craft a delicious meal before your eyes makes you hungry, you are in cluck, because each person will receive a lunch-sized portion of the dish, along with a copy of the recipe so you can take it home and show off your own exceptional talents in the kitchen, replicating the delectable delight for family and friends. Register by calling the COA at 781-585-0512. A prepayment of $5 will secure your spot in this event, limited to 30 attendees.
Avocados are nacho average fruit. They are a superfood that is as good for your body as it is for your taste buds. Beth Israel Deaconess Hospital Plymouth nutritionist Marsha Richards will be at the Pembroke Council on Aging on Tuesday, March 25th from 10:30 to 11:30 to talk about how nature's tasty little heart-healthy treat can reduce your risk of cancer, maintain eye and blood pressure health, and help prevent arthritis. Marsha will also prepare a few avocado toast recipes that promise to guac your world and send everyone home with the recipes. Call 781-294-8220 to register before March 20th, because missing this toast to the avocado would be the pits.
Next up is poet Alan Holwarth with a reading of his original work.
My apologies to the gallery for not making it down here to see your wonderful prints, but I have 2 poems for you here, and you can kind of let the words paint a picture for you. The first poem is called Gray. In the gray light of morning, when time is of little use and thoughts no longer meandering but crashing through the walls, telling me now's the time to find answers to choose just one path from this collage. I turn to you who lie sleeping and envy your gentle sleep and feel your heart's beat in rhythm to mine. And the passing trains going nowhere, fated to return to nowhere, happy to remain alone. Looking at these walls again, seeking to find the power they hold over me, seeking to find the door to which you are the key to open all as you have opened my eyes through your own. When the dawn replaces the gray, we shall leave these walls. All our possessions are packed and our memories forgotten as well as can be. For our new land must be free from all thoughts of the past, except our dream to be free. Thank you. And I have one more. This I dedicate to 20 years of traveling on public transportation. It's called The Road. Transformations created a new ecstasy in the bus. As a man moved toward the abysmal road with his eyes, he surveyed the terse brink of despair. As it neared, he cringed from the rigid rubber matting that threatened him, and as he looked up into their faces, the smiling advertisements crushed him. They looked ridiculous enough to make him want to burn them. The dirty woman who had sat to his left now held the pole. He hated her because she smelled and cared nothing about the night or the road which loomed so close below their fixed stance. She slipped downwards through the open door, as he hoped she would, and he stepped hard on her outstretched, pale, writhing hand as he ground her wrist into the dirty gravel of the road. The zoo creatures who were watching from their cages knew he had pushed her, and he didn't care. And they knew that too, because he was running too fast to hear their curses, and suddenly he couldn't breathe anymore. And black stars lit up the subtlety of his vision as a smile of self-consciousness crossed his dirty face, and he wept in the fear he had so well concealed. Thank you.
Talented keyboardist Richard Amir will be at the Plymouth Center for Active Living on March 28th, performing some of the world's most popular and beloved show tunes and Broadway hits, a repertoire that spans the eras and includes classics from Irving Berlin, George Gershwin, and Marvin Hamlish. The show starts at 1:30 p.m., and this event is free to all timeless theater tune toe tappers. Registration is appreciated, but drop-ins are welcome.
Hippocrates said, "Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food." Healthy foods can be the most affordable medicine there is. What is good for your body does not have to break your budget. Stop and Shop nutritionist Emily McGee will be at the Duxbury Senior Center on Tuesday, March 18th for balanced and budget-friendly meals, an educational workshop that will offer information on how to cook and eat in a way that balances both your diet and your dollars. This workshop runs from 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. and is free to all. Register through the Senior Center's website by calling 781-934-5774, extension 5703.
Constructive community conversations about contentious issues are the objective of Braver Angels debates. Laying aside the concept of winning or losing, they make space for the search for collective truth by bringing people with disparate views together to share perspective, listen to one another, and have a friendly, intellectually engaging debate experience. Join Braver Angels and the Plymouth Center for Active Living on Friday, March 14th, when the resolution will be on the issue of free speech and hate speech, and whether regulating the content of speech should be a governmental power. The debate will take place at the Plymouth Public Library from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. All are invited to attend and listen, or share your own thoughts if you feel compelled to do so. Feel free to drop in or register to attend through the Braver Angels Eventbrite page. And that, my friends, wraps this episode of The Local Scene this week. Thank you for watching.
If you live or work in Plymouth, Pembroke, Kingston, or Duxbury and would like to have your own podcast or show, you should. Email community@thelocalscene.media to find out about our free production services and training for community members.
And if you have a story or event you'd like people to know about, email us at story@thelocalscene.media.
We thank our patrons Tiny & Sons, Quintal Brothers, and Squinty's Pizza for supporting our mission of community in action through media.
We'll be back next week with more of what's good and good to know in our area. Until then, we'll see you on the local scene. For more of what's good and good to know on the South Shore of Massachusetts, hit the subscribe button, and thank you for watching.